Today on Chris Dyer's Creative Friends.
I realized how precious my connection to art was. The way I think of it is like, art's like a mother entity that's sitting there, and you can go over her house and she can make you food and give you a hug, and she's always there. Art's always there. And so my relationship to art, I started looking at it in that way, as an external entity that is my friend, that I have this like little radio that I can turn the stations and I can get these signals from somewhere else, somewhere outside of the body or outside of time, or however you want to look at it. And then these ideas and this inspiration for work comes through your body and comes out. And the best chance you have of that happening is to set up a daily ritual and routine around art, where you get up in the morning and like all of your brushes are out, all of your paints are out, so you give yourself the best chance, and then give it 20 minutes a day. And action.
Yeah, so it's all your fault. But anyways, yeah, thanks so much for having me over your place again,
Yeah.
man. That's so cool.
Hey, buddy.
It's great to be here in Denver again. Had a good time yesterday live painting at Mile High Creative. Did you enjoy that?
I sure did. Yeah, the bounce house was pretty cool format.
Yeah.
I'd never been in a building like that before. It
A
was really...
mushroom party in Bouncy Castle Paradise.
What's it called? Bounce
Bounce Empire.
Yeah.
Did you actually get to do any of the bouncy stuff?
I didn't do the bouncy, but
Dude, it was fun.
I checked out the VIP room and the movie viewing room upstairs. That place was pimped out, man. It was really cool. I just wonder who makes that building and why. You know, it's like an really interesting place.
Yeah, totally.
And then Isaac and them were great, man. It was a big live painter party. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Isaac is my newest sponsor, actually. He creates these YAK snacks. YAK Fish is his brand. These are psilocybin mushroom gummies. I'm going to take a microdose. I think this is like 0.25 of a gram. Do you want one?
I'm not going to mess with the chemistry for today, but thank you.
Yeah.
I do have, he gave me a care package for those, and it'll get into them one sunny day.
It's delicious. Do you ever microdose?
Not as much as I want. You know, I like forget every day that that's an option. Despite having a huge, fear and loathing box of gifted psychedelic drugs from over the years, I literally get to like 9 or 10 p.m. and I go, oh, fuck, I forgot to microdose. I have all these like great mushroom candy. I'm in Denver, I don't know what to think about. I have to like write myself a note and like...
Like, don't you take supplements in the morning?
I do. I genuinely forget that microdosing is an option most days. Because I have my regimen of, smoothie and magnesium and...
But it's better not to microdose like all the time. Like, I think it's good to do it like for like a week or two and then give it a month rest and then come back.
Yeah.
Because...
I mean, tripping has been such a massive part of our lives that I really feel like it's time to get back.
But it doesn't have to be tripping. With the microdose, like what I just ate, probably I won't feel to the point where it will debilitate me or make me get all weird while I'm interviewing you, but it might put enough of an open vibration that allows me to feel the energy, who is me and what's around me. So I think it puts me in a general mood because it just puts everything in a more spiritual point of view.
My theory is that as a mental health buff, people say microdosing is good. I really think it comes down to just the practical. So you eat the microdose and for 4 or 5 hours, you're kind of going, am I going to start tripping like really hard? And that state could be called not depressed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, ooh, is this going to be? And so when I'm like this, kind of excited, kind of happy, that's a mood stabilizer. You're kind of waiting. And then when the hammer doesn't drop, you go, oh, okay. So I took a microdose and it made my day better. I think it's just kind of like practical like that,
Yeah, no, totally. I appreciate microdosing. Psilocybin mushrooms, and once again, thank you so much, YAK Snacks.
Thanks, Isaac. That was cool.
Any support to this project that I've been doing for the last 5 years is super appreciated, especially when it's aligned with the psychedelics that I observe as medicine for the world that goes along with the art that we do. It's you don't have to do psychedelics in order to make visionary art. You should just be able to like flow spiritually.
For sure.
But
for
know,
you and I,
it
especially the
helps you
introduction of, that's why we started making visionary art. I think it's like, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, like when you go to be creative in the world, you know, Mark Twain had the write what you know. And I literally made a list, you know, under the guidance and suggestion of our friend Allison Gray, of the most important things in my life. And I made that list and started making my art about those things. And psychedelics was up there with sex and, you know, everything else. It's one of the most important things you can do. Mm-hmm. At least it was for me and my friends. When I looked at my life at that time, I was like, you know, just taking an inventory of all the coolest shit I ever did. It's way up there, you know.
Yeah, but not the psychedelic in itself, but the experience or the opening that the psychedelics can open up, right?
Yeah, who is it? Graham Hancock, I believe, suggested that psychedelics should be mandatory if you want to go into politics. And like, it's a sort of a quip, a little joke, but it's also like, can you imagine, like, if it was an actual prerequisite, if we lived on some alternate reality where...
Well, I don't think like psychedelics in itself should be mandatory for politicians. Wisdom should. And psychedelics can lead to wisdom. Sure. But I would love if our leaders had more spiritual wisdom as opposed to, I don't know, like it seems that the people who get into politics just want to make a lot of money in general, or they're climbing some ladder of power, and then that's the person that rules the whole society. That's a bad equation.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's not get into politics. Let's get into Randal Roberts. It's been 4 years since I interviewed you in Boulder. I've only very recently started doing repeat guests, and you're one of my best friends. So I was like, you know, we're in Denver. Let's catch up with Randal. What has happened in the last 4 years? Seems like you've had like tons of, you know, deaths and rebirths and revolutions. And I guess like the main thing I could think past relationships with ladies, which I think that's private. I don't want to get into gossip. But I think one of the biggest things that I've seen you change is that back then when we first interviewed you, we were both drunk, and
we were slamming beers on that whole
We were pretty
it was
drunk.
Fun, yeah.
Oh, dude.
We were drunk by the end.
But and now you don't drink at all, pretty much, right?
But I don't. I wouldn't call myself sober. I'll have a drink if I want. I have personal. You know, my father was in AA, in and out of. My father had a lot of problems, and sobriety as this thing was a big part of my childhood, and I just don't. I think in the 80s and 90s that was.
It's too much about religion.
Important, yeah. And then you know, we see various celebrities going through all their things. I find it's just easier if I'm like, you know, I'm no thanks for today, and maybe I'll want to drink tomorrow, and just leaving it in that arena of not a big deal. You know, for some people they have to make it a big deal. Maybe I should. I don't know. But
I think it's more balanced. Like, say, I drink myself, but I try not to be a drunken bastard that's out there, like, you know, hurting people around me, including myself. But, like, I'll still, like, drink a six-pack and skateboard.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to my friends. When people are leaning in, with people that care about you, are saying, like, hey, you might not want to, you know.
You have to, like, hit your head against the wall. You went a little bit too far there.
Yeah, I was drinking every day in, like, 2021. Mm-hmm. I was drinking every day. It was COVID, the middle end of COVID. I had a bunch of what I thought were legitimate stressors. We also lived in a chalet in the mountains where I backtracked this and figured you have to go down. When you went down to town, you bought a lot of toilet paper, and you bought a lot of, you know, soap, and you bought a lot of eggs, and also I would get a lot of beers because I was like kind of set up to have guests at this house. And COVID happened at the same time that I was like supplying this house with. It sounds like a terrible excuse, but it's true. So I would stock the bar and the fridge in case my friends came to visit and stayed for the weekend at my beautiful home. And then COVID was happening, but that you know, process was still in place. So I was like Jack Nicholson, man, in The Shining, up there, just like it went from like a, you know, fun barbecue vibes to a pretty consistent. It really snuck up on me too. I have alcoholism in my family. like I mentioned, and therefore I was always able to keep it at arm's length. It's pretty easy picturing the bad memories I had of my mom and dad as a kid. And I think backtracking it and thinking, I've given it a lot of thought. My father passed away, and at one point during COVID, during these specific circumstances, and I was also kind of feeling pretty low, I thought I would like get in touch with that part of him. What is this drinking thing all about anyway? And like really give it a, coming from my genetics and so for the first time in my life, I gave it a real try. I was like, I'm going to see, I don't know, maybe some of it was subconscious and some of it was, I just want to just.
You jumped into alcoholism.
I needed to
fully.
see, I needed to see, like we're supposed to, I think on one level, ride this ride till the wheels fall off. You have to try everything, feel everything, cry the oceans of tears, and laugh the helium levels of make your whole head explode laughter. So in that process of living my life, I spent a year really drinking like every day just to see what happened, and it wasn't good. I don't recommend it to anybody out there thinking about it.
Yeah, but you hit a wall and you had to stop.
Yeah. People I loved were leaning in and being like, hey, I'm having a hard time with this, And I did. More or less, once I figured out it was a big problem for the people around me, I immediately quit. And it really wasn't that big a deal. I had this dog that I loved, and I would go on these long hikes with him, and I just did that every day for like 3 months, 4-mile up and down hike. It's pretty cool. And when you're going through a change like that, replacing it with, for me, it was walking. For me, and then it kind of was over. I've had a couple stressful art openings or something where I'm like, I really want a beer for this, so a couple stumbles like that, but honestly, it hasn't really been that challenging to quit drinking for me. I feel so bad for the people that it is hard for.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you drink less.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that you also not this like super rigid, like, okay, my new box is like 0 alcohol. It's like
Alan Watts has this thing, if you're going to steal from the devil, don't let him know. Right?
What does that mean?
Well, as soon as you say, that's it, I'm turning over a new leaf, the devil's going to come and want his. Or if you say you're leaving town, that's it, everyone, I'm leaving town.
Yeah.
All of the people that you owe money are going to come knocking at your door and like, hey, what about that 40 you owe me?
Yeah,
and so energetically, the same thing happens with stuff like drinking. So that's why I kind of have that approach of like, I'll chill for today. That's one day at a time.
But if you do drink one beer, that doesn't mean you failed at this whole
enterprise. No, I'm an
Yeah.
alcoholic. Like I just sort of avoid all that by saying like, I'm good for today. And that sort of is good to apply to lots of parts of your life,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about that. I love the mantra, oh, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I don't know. Do you hate this person? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we don't know anything. And the more you can tap into that, I don't know, it's just like a nice place to be, But yeah, so no more drinking 20 beers every day.
That's
doesn't
great.
work for me.
You look a lot healthier. But it also, wow, Jesus, Randall, please don't do that in another interview because it's gonna throw me off balance. But you did go through like a dark night of the soul.
Yeah,
those
my relationship
years.
at the time dissolved. I walked away from my house up there and my dog, and it was also COVID really hit us all differently. The grief from that is still being processed by everyone. Mm-hmm. That was my COVID experience. COVID ended with major life changes for me. But I look around and like that also happened to lots of other people.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, we've all got to go through our shit.
Yeah.
And what's not meant to be forever, perhaps, will stop being, and we got to dive into a new chapter that perhaps has pain as part of it, but will lead you into better versions of yourself. So tell me about this process you're going through, like dealing with your mental health and getting to a better place.
I got around 20 2021, I think right around 2022, that January, I quit drinking a therapist. I love my therapist. If you are thinking about getting therapy, I highly recommend it, kids. I don't really like to think about who I would be without that. I mean, I'm a fucking wreck, and I have that practice in my pocket. And it was a long time coming, you know. I've people that love me my whole life have said, you know, hey, you might want to try therapy, and then it became sort of just too obvious, and I had to give it a try. I went through 3 fucking therapists until it's like dating. Or as my therapist says, it's like finding a good hairdresser. You know, you gotta go through some, and luckily I went through that process and found one that really works for me. And yeah, I'm so grateful for what she's taught me, and just being able to have that lens on like how I tick. A lot of you get to, you know, be older, and then you're like, why am I doing these behaviors? And a lot of people don't even know why they're doing stuff, you know, and just knowing what was happening in my head was really helpful.
So a good therapist just makes great questions, so you yourself can answer the questions that you might.
Well, what's popular in mental health these days is the internal family structure idea. So the bottom line is all children are traumatized in some way. You don't have to use that word, but from the first moment your mom takes you off of her breast, as a baby, that's a trauma, and your brain goes, whoa, what's happening? I'm cold, there's no milk, right? So then you're crawling towards the light socket, and your mom says, no, right? Think about what a mother is to a baby. And it's warm, yes, and then a big no, don't touch the light socket, right? So that happens to you in one way or another. You know, it's so sad that for some people, those no experiences are awful. For me, it wasn't that bad, but yeah, we all have childhood stuff. And when those start to happen, once your brain is kind of putting things together, you know, 7 years old, 9 years old, 13 years old, your brain, in an effort to save your life, creates these guardian aspects, usually stitched together of the meanest, baddest motherfuckers you have in your life at the time, often a playground bully. And your brain says, okay, now I've got Chester the puncher, and I've got Kyle the big mean man. And later, when you become a full-grown adult, these guardian aspects come online and try to protect you. Get away from Christopher. He's my friend.
Yeah.
And so when you start to realize what's happening in your brain, you know, like I was like throwing burritos across the room, and like, you know, I punched a hole in the wall.
Acting like a child.
Yeah, road rage is a great example. When someone's road raging, what's happening for them is that the little child in them is being threatened in some way, and your brain brings on a protector to step in front. And that protector is a limited sort of, you know, like collage of the bullies that you've come across. This is, you know, it's most obvious in like a person who has an abusive parent, and then they have to struggle through abusing their own kids, and it gets passed down. Anyway, I didn't know why any of this shit was happening in my brain, and now through meditation, through just awareness, just bringing my awareness there, there's this wonderful process called the change triangle. I forget the psychiatrist that came up with it, but essentially we have a defense behavior. Often it's one of these bullies, you know. You have the defense behavior, and then behind the defense behavior is, you know, anxiety, shame, and guilt. And you don't want to feel those either. And then underneath that is a core emotion of some kind. So if you feel like laughing at a funeral, or you feel like angry at something you're supposed to be happy at, your body says it's inappropriate to feel those feelings right now. So then I'm going to feel anxiety or shame, and then it's inappropriate to feel that, so I'm going to kick on a defense behavior, which can be chewing your fingernail, drinking too much. It can be a million things.
Where does a victim mentality fit in that triangle?
A victim mentality.
Like, oh, poor me, the world's against me, and like I'm just a victim to all the bad things around me, and I got no power.
Sounds like a defensive behavior. I'm no psychologist,
Yeah.
And I highly recommend you find one and ask them what they think. That sounds like a defense behavior or guilt and shame.
Like a depowered state, anyway.
Yeah, and so most people are spending, what I noticed about myself, that I was spending almost all of my time in either a defense behavior or guilt, shame, or anxiety. And rarely do we get this chance to, it's really simple. You just slow down, feel your body, and then describe any emotions you're feeling. Oh, yeah, I feel a tightness in my chest. I thought about my mom dying this morning, and I haven't really let it go. I forgot that was kind of in the back of my head. And there's this anxiety, this thing. And so the anxiety, you go, okay, I see you, anxiety. Can you move over here, please? Get out of my face and my chest. And then you go, thank you, I love you. Is there anything that I can do for you? And you have these conversations sort of immediately in your head after some practice. And that state, because before I was just running around full defensive behaviors like almost all the time. And when you go out and interact with people and you kind of look at them, someone whiling out in the line at 7-Eleven or whatever, you're kind of like, oh wow, most people are just constantly engaged in guilt or shame or defense behavior.
Yeah.
And
they're not present enough to take a step back and be like, okay, like I can control the defensiveness. I can at least cruise through the anxiety or the negative emotions.
They don't even know that they're having those emotions. And then as far as core emotions are going, you have one or more of them going on at all times. And how many times, even if you're practicing to do this, you're not like, a lot of people aren't checking in the day, like as they get a glass of water, what core emotion am I feeling right now? Oh, joy. I didn't know that. That we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. We're just like, oh, this motherfucker, and just running. And it's chaotic world,
Right.
So just being able to once a fucking day, once in a while, I'm like checking in, seeing what core emotion I'm feeling, seeing what's happening, and having a little distance from it was what I needed to live a better life. And I mean, that's the most essential way I've changed is not often enough, but sometimes
one a day is like
myself.
A beginning. The ideal would
it's
be
very hard to do all the time.
Non-stop presence, which I guess would be called enlightenment.
Yeah.
It's like this level of concentration that even when we sit down to meditate, we can't achieve too easy because in 2 seconds already the mind went somewhere else, and that's the whole purpose of meditating, and still we're going off. So forget about it, like living your daily life. But we can be more aware in general and be observant of our feelings and not let us drag us into situations we'd rather not have.
Yeah.
So this awareness that you're gaining and practicing, has it like affected your art? Because I remember back in the Boulder days when you were drinking a lot and perhaps living in a paradise situation, but you were just artistically blocked. You didn't feel like painting much anymore.
I go through phases all the time. I don't know if you do. Varying levels of intention and ability when it comes to making paintings. I'm on a really good tick right now. I have about 20 in progress paintings, and that feels like it kind of snuck up on me. Wasn't expecting to have that many going. But yeah, I'm in a much better place. Again, I'm trying to take as much ownership as I can for my own life. But COVID was fucking crazy, man. Like, there's a lot going on. Then you open the window and look outside, and there's a lot going on out there. And it was a pretty hectic time for all of us. And from my reaction, in addition to living in a fixer-upper house and doing all the shit I was doing, my reaction was not feeling very inspired. But part of that, going through all these changes, moving to Denver, doing all this stuff, I realized my connection to art is, I got down to a point where that was all I had. And I realized how precious my connection to art was. And the way I think of it is like, art's like your mom, like a mother entity that's sitting there, and you can go over her house and she can make you food and give you a hug, and she's always there. Art's always there. And I was far away from that for a while, and then I lost everything, and then came back and I looked, and then art was there, and I was like, hallelujah, like art is my love, my greatest love, you know. And so so anybody like people who haven't painted for years, we meet artists all the time, aspiring artists. People see us at a show, and they're like, "Oh, I used to draw in middle school, but I always tell them like, it's there waiting for you if you want to go back." And I love the writer Elizabeth Gilbert so much. She has a book called Big Magic. I highly recommend all your listeners get that book and read it. She famously wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
And then was tasked with doing a follow-up book to the biggest book to ever hit the world for that decade, pretty much. And she went kind of nuts, trying to figure out what can I do to follow up.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, a lot of bands' second albums are not their best albums. A lot of part 2 of movies are not better than the original, and she was very aware of that. And she wrote this whole book, Big Magic, which is about the process of creative people pulling the muse in from the universe and coaxing and having a relationship with. And I read this book right at that point. And God, if there's some off chance that you're seeing this, Liz Gilbert, I love you so much. She's like, I don't know.
She's watching.
Yeah, I hope so.
She's an avid watcher of the show, I tell you.
Big Magic is a fucking game changer. And so my relationship to art, I sort of started looking at it in that way, as an external entity that is my friend, that I have this like radio as a creative person, but all people have it. But I have this like little radio that I can turn the stations, and I can get these signals from somewhere else, somewhere outside of the body or outside of time, or however you want to look at it. And then these ideas and this inspiration for work comes through your body and comes out. And the best chance you have of that happening is to set up a daily ritual and routine around art. So you set up a little cockpit area in your home to where you get up in the morning and like all of your brushes are out, all of your paints are out. So you give yourself the best chance, and then give it 20 minutes a day, and I really went in and embraced that. My art practice it just became really, really important to me. And then I said, it started catching on fire everywhere in my life. And
has your art changed, or you've just continued pulling the thread on the expression you already had always?
Yeah, it's I don't think I've gotten a little better at painting, maybe. I don't know. I try to.
We all do a little bit, inevitably.
I try to not like even think about that too much. Like, as soon as you start going, like, am I good at painting? There's plenty of examples to make you sad about where you're at, and then I try not to worry about whether I'm getting better or not. I just worry about getting my ass in this chair and being here for starting 20 minutes a day. And sometimes you get in the chair and you do your 20 minutes and it's like this weird relationship with it where you're like, it's like a job that some bullshit job like mowing lawns or something. You're like, fucking, I showed up today, And then other times you sit down and you pull that thread and you get intoxicated, and 20 minutes turns into 9 hours of flow state. But if you don't have a ritual set up, then it's less of a chance. That's why even if this was a smaller apartment or whatever, by my nightstand, I would have my sketchbook open with a pen, something to say, oh yeah, right, I'm trying to, it's the same thing if you're like taking care of your body. You leave your running sneakers and sweatpants out, full, ready for you in the morning. Hook yourself up for tomorrow.
Oh, hi there. How you doing? We interrupt this beautiful, super awesome podcast for me to invite you to imagine this. You and me in the beautiful tropical islands of Hawaii, painting together. That is true. It sounds impossible, But this May 21 to 26, I will be in the island of Kauai offering a 4-day art retreat. And my best friend, Judea, who's offering up her spot up Nishakra. She's an awesome psychic healer. We will be painting, I will be teaching. I encourage you to check out the webpage on nishakra.com. And yeah, I hope you can make it, because why not? Let's paint in nature, right? All right, blessings. Has changing cities made it more conducive to making art? Like, I would imagine that
Hell yeah.
living in the mountains of Boulder with little distractions and lots of space would be the perfect environment to make art, but maybe there's not enough stimulus around and you're going, you know, what's it called? Like, you got island fever or cabin fever, and then you go to Denver and you might live in a smaller environment with lots of people around you, but there's so much things popping. I don't know, like, I got a love-hate relationship with Denver where, like, there's a lot of people and community and brands of the kind of art that, you know, I've been interested in for so long. But there's also, like, you know, rat race city bullshit and competitiveness and, you know, cliques and people hating on others and stuff that, like, I just couldn't really, like, you know, this city wasn't for me forever, at least. What's your experiences with moving from Boulder to Denver?
Well, yeah. For me, with the cliques, if you make art and I make art, we're friends until you tell me different. So
that's my vibe.
I've always had that connection, yeah.
But some people wanna.
Some people are, yeah.
Some people wanna be part of the cool kids.
Cutting you from the sides and shit. You're like, damn, really? Like you.
Yeah, especially with visionary art, which is like oneness, spiritual. Yeah. Let's get together and feel all right vibes.
I don't understand. Competitiveness in art, to me, is like a movie star who treats wait staff poorly. You know, you're just like, what are you doing? You know, like, like, ugh.
But aren't we all guilty of a little bit of it? Like, don't we all compare ourselves and then have a little bit of resentment, or do we learn to observe it?
I really try to stop that shit. But no, I do indulge. I like looking at an artist and going, why the fuck are they fucking? But you have, I'm sure, countless people who, why is this guy fucking? Why does he get to do it? And that's a very sophomoric, early on, very understandable, very common reaction for artists. Is you see them all the time. I get comments once in a while. You are making art. You love art. Your art's good in whatever form that is. And then some jackass Taylor Swift's their way into the spotlight, and you're like, why? I don't understand why. And what you don't understand is that there's this massive machine of luck happening
or spiritual orchestration for that soul needs to be in that position and us not.
The response is fuck all that, get in your chair for 20 minutes a day. Either way. That's what you got to be doing, and that's the answer.
Well, that's the skater mentality. That's one of the things that skateboarding has taught me, because, like, I'll go skating with a lot of pros because that's just the people that end up skating with me. And
I saw Bam Margera skating in your backyard.
I skated with Bam Margera and, you know, some really talented pros last week.
Sure,
Jaime Mathieu and I'm not even good compared to, like, a normal skater in the street. Forget about it, a pro. So I got really self-conscious, and they have to always be like, dude, knock that shit. You're a skater, you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun, we're all equal. And then I'm like, oh yeah, fuck that bullshit of who's better or worse, or who made it, who didn't make it. We're making art, we're all skating,
gonna die. So whatever you're making, good luck with that. We all end in the same horrible calamity. You know? Like, it's silly to feel good, too. It's silly to feel bad about it, and it's pretty silly to feel like you made it, no matter how many billions of dollars you get in this life. We're all worms at the end. But I wanted to say, to go back what you said.
To Denver.
So you would think, for some people, living in an idyllic nature, situation, like I was living out in the woods outside of Boulder, the view off of our porch, if you go back to the last, this is like ridiculous. So for me, it turns out crackheads and slaps on the back of signs and graffiti and sirens and broken glass.
And cool tattoo chicks.
And cool tattoo chicks with thick glasses and freaking walking down the alley behind my house and seeing all the dumpsters tagged and stuff. That is a much more conducive and inspiring situation for me and the way my brain creativity works. I also grew up in a city. I'm an inner city kid. You know, I grew up just outside of New York City. Went to New York all the time. The city I grew up in was pretty
grimy.
City. Yeah, it was grimy. And then out of that, it's more beautiful to see the little sprout growing out of the crack in the pavement. It's more beautiful than. But anyway, God is the artist in nature. And we have these when you were looking out your window and you're seeing this, the best painting that anyone could, for me, it didn't inspire me. It put me in a state of apathetic awe, you know?
Maybe it's that contrast where it's so beautiful you almost feel ugly in comparison.
Yeah. I would look, nature is important. Like, I love connecting with that. And talk about a place to eat mushrooms is go out. But for making art, there's a little, it's not even competitive. It's just active. You know, the city component.
Stimulus.
Yeah. I
sometimes a little bit of competitiveness can be like, I want to try
friendly
harder.
Competitiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're not hating on anyone, you know?
Yeah. I love the city for think of the creative scenes that are in New Orleans and Austin and New York and LA and like these are cities, you know, no one talks about whatever Mayonnaisburg, Pennsylvania, you know, where like there is art there in little towns and in nature too. Lots of famous, you know, Georgia O'Keeffe, you know, lived outside of Taos, and the nature was a big part of that movement and that scene with her. But and there's countless examples of that. But for me personally, I like having a little grit. It really makes me want to make art. I love walking down a busy street. Yeah. To go to my art studio and like just be in that. You know, it's the same thing as like in the city you shop almost every day for food, which is also something I really enjoy. You know, you got your croissants and like some fresh flowers and like some tomato, a new, you know, from the little corner market. I know this is quaint, but it's more alive to me to live in the city and do the daily tasks required in the city.
Yeah, it's culture.
Yeah, interacting with others, maybe somebody you don't want to interact with, that puts a nice sort of edge on the edges of your, you know, of your reality. Yeah. I don't like it, but I like it, you know, like interacting with people.
Well, as much as I don't think Denver's a place that I want to live. I do really appreciate that you can show up midday on a Thursday and go to a bouncy house mushroom party, which people dressed as piñatas to some cool DJ. Like there's something really cool and special in this city.
Yeah, Denver's not quite, but almost the Amsterdam of New York, of America. You know, like there's a lot.
For Vice City, or like at least. Psychedelics, at least.
Yeah, it's really cool that drugs are in what I assume should always have been the place that they belong, which is not necessarily a big concern of law enforcement, right? Mm-hmm. It's more or less, you get into crack and meth, and you know, they give drugs a bad name, but. If you are breaking into people's cars for drugs, obviously the police should get involved. But if you are not, there's that line. It's been such a long time coming. I mean, when we were kids, it was like, come on, we're just smoking a joint. Like, how is this illegal? You know?
Yeah.
And so
who am I hurting?
Denver's really instituted that. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want to do here. Yeah. I've never heard of anyone getting arrested for having drugs here, you know, I don't know. It's not just laid back. It's like where it should be. Hey, if you're not out hurting anyone, it's something people have always, you know.
Well, there's substances and there's substances, you know. There's all of them, and this leads me to my next question. visionary art is really hard to define now that there's so many branches to the trees, and each art is a different leaf on that branch, and Denver seems to be a branch of its own. The visionary art that comes out of Denver, it's hard to say like all art in Denver is like this, but I'd say in general, it doesn't come off too ayahuasca or shroomy. To me, it seems more like Special K or I don't know, nitrous. So it just seems kind of like
cocaine laser beams, man.
Yeah, very like you gotta sniff it in order to feel it, and that's not my vibe, so I don't resonate so much with it. But it's what's popular here because so many people are partying.
Yeah.
How do you sit in this?
Well, I think, okay, yeah, 20 years ago, visionary art was very novel, and there were only a few people putting visionary art out online, and it was also with Terrence McKenna had just died, Alex Gray and Allison Gray were on the come up, the internet was on the come up, right? And so you had this like mystical, art, and you're like, what is this? Festivals were also on the come up. There was always concerts and stuff, but whole
spiritual
Burning
art
Man, spiritual art, tripping and artwork, it all was like very new.
This is
so
early
Spangle
2000s.
music and whatever, all these things kind of all came up, and it was all like, oh my God, this is all so great, and now it's been around for 20 years, and every scene does this kind of thing. Like the 60s was really exciting, and then this beautiful thing blossoms from it, and it's everywhere. And then as that flower curdles and turns brown, you get the disco era and cocaine and then crack and this beautiful thing. And that's the way life works. It is full of life, it gives birth, hopefully, and then it rots and falls apart. And this is the process, for whatever reason, of this reality. So that's perhaps happening.
So you're saying that Denver's visionary art scene is rotten then? I'm just joking.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, it's beautiful in its own way.
I think it's time for, it's changing. And I don't know what to say about it other like I've boiled things down to where like I just got to get my ass in the chair making art for 20 minutes a day. So
I don't even fit or not doesn't really matter.
I don't even know if I'm comfortable saying I'm a visionary artist or even a psychedelic artist or a whatever. I know that's sort of a thing. You put the beret on and you go like, my art can't really be defined, but seriously, I don't care. I would love Alex and Allison, and I look up to them. I love you. I look up to you so much. You guys are,
thank you.
And all the OGs, Carrie and Luke, and that was a really inspiring thing that got me into. I'm so grateful for the Terrence McKennas and the Alex Grays and the all these people who spoke out, Bill Hickses, and all these people from my childhood who were like, I was like, man, I can talk about this psychedelics thing. It means a lot to me. And
before it was popular and hype.
And then I joined that chorus, and now, fuck, man, 2012, every festival, psychedelic, visionary, live painter who was working was at Rootwire Festival. All 45 of us. Now there's, 30,000?
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And y'all don't even know who I am, motherfucker. Like, I see remnants of or maybe I shouldn't say this. It's the way things go. The bands that inspired Pearl Jam and Nirvana are not popular.
No.
But they love, like, the Melvins, and they...
no one knows who Fishbone is.
Right, right. And so we're watching that kind of process kind of happen with our whole lives. It was super exciting on the 2012 lead up. You remember what that felt like?
Yeah, it's like, wow, this
Occupy
thing is
was going on, and it was just...
all of a sudden, these brands started to pop out, and you were actually making a living, being like, oh my God, like I paid all my debts from the last few years from this thing that is starting to catch on fire.
So that's been, for me, as far as surviving goes, has been... I was really lucky to catch a wave, partially because of your influence. I emulated you as much as I could and some other artists. I also saw, because I was like a video game nerd who kind of switched over to making art. I wanted to make video games for the longest time, and I started painting because of that. I think I mentioned that before.
It's not too late yet, though.
Yeah. So anyway, I was sort of a little more savvy than just your average idiot about when I saw Facebook come up. I was like, oh, you can post pictures, and I already had a website, so it was like a no-brainer, 2007 or 8, to say like, hey, here's my art, here's a link to my website, right? So for 10 years or so, I made a really reliable income selling prints online and using social media as my main form of advertisement. And that has changed. And that's been a really hard, along with COVID and along with all these external real factors. My career also has absolutely changed. And I had to come back, and I ask my friends, I poll people around me, should I stop making art? Should I get a job as a server in a restaurant? Or what? I have a 15-year gap in my resume, but my like I could pretty much count on 10 or 20 prints a week for the last 15 years. And that's drastically changed.
But that's because of algorithms not sharing your art.
It's so many factors. Yeah, there's so many more painters. There's There's many more creative people online. Look at YouTube. It's full of just.
There's a lot of content.
And that's fine. Yeah, there's plenty of content, and I wouldn't call it competition. It's just, I see it in my mind as like did you ever see the way that a city grows? Like, it's like a picture of a road, a country road, and there's like a home. R. Crumb has a great comic about this. And there's like a tree, and then they build a telephone line in another house, and then 20 years later, it's like 3 telephone lines, and there's a corner store, and then the road is paved, and then there's cars, and then there's skyscrapers, and this beautiful, and this is what happened in every town in America. It's industrialized. And it ends, looking like this kind of sad Las Vegas-y strip kind of thing with just big McDonald's and billboards and traffic and crackheads and all. And where a city, as we've mentioned, is kind of exciting. That process has sort of happened to the internet, especially creative people selling stuff on the internet. So I feel like me and my friends were kind of down in this open field, for a while. I call it one of the first waves of Facebook to really make a decent living selling art online. And now I feel like in that field, there's just tents and cars and people yelling, and it's like a market. Do you ever go to a market in like another country, like Thailand or
Yeah, any third world country?
Screaming, buy mine, buy mine, buy mine. Like,
this is cheaper. This is cheaper. It doesn't even have to be better.
And they're picking your pocket, and they're everywhere, and you're just like, oh God, geez. And so everybody's like constantly bombarded with scammers and all this stuff on the internet. The internet has.
It's like that Dave Chappelle skit. Like, if the internet was a place, this is how it is.
It's disappointing. Everything has been. There's been a little postage stamp placed on every surface of the whole internet, and now you got to pay to play, and there's a subscription for everything, and they got it all figured out, didn't you? You really ruined everything. And I don't know who to blame for that. It's just the internet was so exciting. It really was, wasn't it?
But it's not done yet. It's just this is the current expression of it, and perhaps it got like maddening, like a third world country market. But at one point, people are getting overwhelmed and they want to take a step back. And maybe it's time to hit the pavement again and show up to the festivals or in person or the bouncy castle festivals and be like, hey, here I am, and
Yeah, I've my solution to this, like I said, I've asked around, should I really seriously consider quitting,
And the answer is always
everyone's
no.
Yeah, the answer from external people and from my own internal, when I look inside, I don't think I should stop making art the most important part of my life. So, got to figure it out. Selling prints online isn't working, so what else? And thanks to a little gray hair and my experiences, I've turned now to live events and workshops. I'm going to give that a really strong try. I'm doing the first one down in Austin. Probably.
Art Us?
Yeah, Art Us. Yeah, Rosemary and
or
Art Us Co. Yeah, great guys.
I love them.
Lovely people. They're kind of holding down the visionary gallery scene there. I'm doing a workshop there. I'm the first out-of-state artist that they're having doing a workshop.
Woo!
And at that night, we're going to do Randal's Great Big Live Paint Jam, which is this idea I've been kicking around forever, which is take the Denver live painting scene and make a little road show out of it. So we'll go to whatever, Kansas City, get all the artists who are around there. If you make art and I make art, right? And then throw a party where the focus is live painting. You've had these in your backyard for many times. You know, those are great.
I used to do them in the park in Montreal during COVID.
Yeah, we do the painting in the park thing. I put those are always a success. Even if only 4 people show up, it's beautiful because then you get to really drop in with this new friend through art. And sometimes 100 people show up. And so if we can monetize it enough to justify its existence only, you know, I really think it's something there. I'm working with this brilliant woman, Marissa. Hopefully it works out, but she's gonna try to plan a tour of this, and I'm gonna put focus on that. You know, like artists you become community building hubs and fundraisers of sort. Like that's the natural progression of being an artist, unless you're like a real weirdo and you can't.
Or if you got like a manager that knows how to milk you, you can just stay in the studio painting all day long and you never hear from the artist. You just got somebody going out there and selling it for you.
Sure. I think that's rare enough to just be considered not an option.
For
us blue collar artists, man, we gotta get out there.
It's less fun, and I gave up waiting on my savior. You just gotta go out there and hit the pavement and make it yourself. Hi. We take a little break from our super awesome podcast show so that I, your artist friend Chris Dyer, can tell you about my brand, Positive Creations, which I have been doing for 20 years. And with this project, I share my art through different products, maybe beautiful clothes that you can use in normal life or in the festival world, or skateboards that you can ride, or games like puzzles, or kendamas and flow toys, or use slip mats for your records. Basically a lot of functional things that just add fun and magic into your existence. So I hope you like it. Check out positivecreations.net, positivecreations.net. That was not a glitch. And I'll talk to you soon. Blessings.
Well, Alex said that too. He really blew my mind with that. If you're going to make a temple, you don't want, as attractive as it is, you don't want a billionaire to come in and build it all for you. Okay, what you get there is some two weirdos built this thing over there, and it's what you want is to raise the money for it $5 a time, because then every person is invested and it really is a community temple of whatever kind you're trying to make. And you door to door, you sign up lists, you get everyone to put in, then everyone's like, oh, this is my temple. This is our temple. And we give the two options. I'd rather, you know, it's a pain in the ass to run to help a community live, but it's better. It's better in the long run. I as much as I do want collectors to
we're not
go to
saying
my website,
no to millionaires to come and drop a M or two on our projects.
But for me, selling original paintings, I've sort of priced myself out. So I've been lucky enough to where my paintings have gotten expensive enough to buy an original that nobody can buy them now. It's a tricky problem.
Right.
I don't want to. You have to keep the value for your existing paintings. I didn't know this was going to happen. You know.
Well, people are more broke these days.
Right. Yeah.
That's just a general factor from the world.
Well, we saw for our particular art scene, the what do you call it? You know, like where weed became like something criminals were doing in their back road to full-on dispensaries on every corner in the country. And the growers who were on that wave were buying a lot of art, you know. I've sold a lot of art.
Black market growers. from back in the day.
And all that has changed now. You can buy an eighth for $7. Like, when the hell did that happen?
Which is good if you smoke, but then those who used to fund psychedelic visionary movements, festivals, brands, etc.
Well, that's what you're seeing in Denver is a lot of these people who made a fortune growing and selling dabs and those various things. They're turning their attention to mushrooms and DMT and MDMA, and preparing for the inevitable, hopefully,
next wave.
Legalization of that. And that's really exciting. Really, it's also like, whoa.
And it's industrialization that you're saying, it's that little hut turning into Las Vegas mall strip where we used to have hidden in the bushes growers and now it's like super legit, yet they're making no money.
There's something, like
just Babylon just eats it all.
Early Misfits shows in 1982 is not the same thing as Green Day playing at the MTV Music Awards.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same, you're kind of like,
Yeah, it's not the same vibe, It lost its, and maybe that's happening to visionary art too. There used to be this best kept secret between those psychonauts, the few that existed, and now it's super mainstream to microdose or to be even smoke weed or be psychedelically minded, which is awesome. Let's open up to the spiritual world, but maybe even our art scene is being industrialized, where the people who kind of started it up might not be as hip as the brand new flavor of the month that's more aligned with the new generations. I don't know.
Or more aligned with the existing,
Babylon
industrial
system.
war complex of money.
Right.
You want to start playing that game, you're going to inherently ruin whatever the internet is for, everything. The internet was like rootin' tootin', wild, beautiful. And as it became more part of this
system
machine, I don't know how, you can take that as far as you want. It's too big of a problem. Again, I've simplified things for me where I don't really mean to, I'm sorry if anyone, I know that we're living in a time where everyone's like, my problem's really important and you should care about it. And I do. But what people don't seem to understand is that there's a lot of problems. And if I did dedicate all my time to caring about each one of them, my life would be dissolved. And I don't really understand that whole process. I don't want to. I just have noticed people are like, my problem is the best. Our problem, our problem, our problem, our problem, my problem. Hey, you.
Yeah,
hey,
don't you care about us?
Don't you care about my problem? And it's like, but don't you have the internet? Don't you see that it's impossible and heartbreaking and soul-crushing to try to care about all the things? So it's this really weird...
It's not that you don't care, but you only,
you only have so much
you
energy.
can only hurt yourself so much with empathy and compassion for something you can't even really fix. So maybe just taking one or two problems in your plate is all you can handle.
What I figured out, I've sat down and looked at the whole equation for myself, and I figured my answer is art. I will make art, and I will live by an example of a kind artist, and you can do it too. And that's the loudest thing I can say and the most effective. It's more effective for me to leave behind my lifetime as this gentle artist, as much as I can try to attain that. And that's what I have to say. That's what I have to say to the military industrial complex. That's what I have to say to this asshole and those fuckers and those assholes. And that's the beautiful thing about art is like I said in the beginning of this, she's always there waiting for you to come on over. Come on over to, Mark Henson's beautiful painting, You can either go down the plane crash in the war zone, or you can go to the people sitting in the,
having a beautiful dinner in the meadow.
Come on over. That's what's so cool. Yeah. I'm a reluctant hippie, man. I don't want to be a hippie, but I grew up, I was exposed to all the religions, all the mean people, all the shit. And I looked around and I was like, well, this is the group that accepts all the groups. You don't have to wear a certain kind of hat or say this thing or think, you just, if you're trying to be loving, hippies will include you in their group.
The real ones, not just the fake, superficial costume ones.
And so for me, art is that's the answer to everything. It always comes, and just out of necessity and out of my own practice and ritual and having to simplify things. My brain's fucking exploding in a million different directions all the time. And like I said, I have really significant emotional and mental health issues. So for me, I gotta sit in this chair and for 20 minutes a day, try my best to make the most beautiful art I can make. And really after that, it's out of my hands, you know? Everything is, you know, and we look like World War III is about to happen out there, and that's heartbreaking and unnerving.
How did you feel observing the fires in LA recently? Was that triggering?
Oh,
having that you had your own house
it was.
burned down?
I would see people getting interviewed and stuff, and I know where they're at.
Yeah.
Because my house burned last July. The Denver house. So I moved from Boulder to Denver, and then I was in this cool little mini collective here in Denver. And as you know, my friend and roommate Jessica died in that fire. She fell asleep, and the fire happened. And then my other roommates and I were away at a music festival working, and we got a call at the festival at Sunday morning, 6 in the morning. My neighbor's like, "Hey, you got to come home. Your house is on fire." Crazy. And it was anyway, I knew what those people in LA were going through. When a person's like choked up and they get the microphone in their face, we had the news come over and everything. It was a really big deal that sweet Jessica didn't make it out. So it was interesting to people for like a week. The Red Cross came to our house and like gave us little care packages, and meeting those people who dedicate their life. See, I wish I could be as dope as these ladies who came from the Red Cross. And they have these little, they have a little gift bag for you and like a little blanket if you need it and like all this thing.
Just gonna put this here.
Sorry, yeah.
Keep on holding your little thingy there.
Don't vape, kids. So, yeah, geez, the fire was a lot. It was a lot.
That's crazy because like a week before I was visiting Denver and visiting you, I was so happy that you found a house with artist roommates, and we had that art jam with Jessica and Rish. Yeah. And then a week later, you're posting about your house burnt down and Jessica McMillan dead. I was like, this is impossible. What the fuck happened? Like, please tell us a little about Jessica. I know Jessica through my ex-manager, Corey. Mm-hmm. She would come over our house. She was a party girl at the time. And, she got out of it.
Yeah. She was on the top of her game, which makes it all the more tragic.
No, I think it's beautiful. She left on a good note.
She did. Yeah. She was really on the top of her game. Out of the four of us that lived in that house, Jess was really crushing it. Like
she was going to
the gym. She was doing combo sessions for people. She was, she just bought a new truck. She was like happy and buoyant and light, and she was sort of the mama of the house, like taking care of us, and just a lovely, brilliant, beautiful human being. And then she wasn't there anymore, and it was beyond your ability to comprehend, really. That week my head was it's a weird headspace to be in when the whole top floor of the house burned, and then the bottom was just covered with all this like toxic soot and stuff. And so we went in for like a week and like got out the stuff we could. Thank God our paintings were all hung in this room where they got some black stuff on the back of them, but they didn't. It's sort of an ironic and beautiful part. The paintings were like the only thing that were okay.
Crazy.
Also, the kitchen was like, you can't use any of that stuff, once that shit gets on there.
So you had to rebuy all your things.
Yeah, everything. Scratch. We've all started off from scratch. I had a couple clothes and like a couple things that were okay, but my office where I do my shipping for my prints was underneath the upstairs room, and all the water that they used to spray came down. So this black soot and water like ruined all my prints, and even all that was like it didn't even compare to the, it's just such a check. You know, you're going along in your life. I haven't really come to terms with any of this yet. Like,
was it traumatizing?
I mean,
Like, you can't speak for Rich
technically,
or the
yeah.
other roommate. I can't remember his
No,
name.
I've talked to Rich recently. Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not cool with it.
Because you got an interesting relationship with death after your dad's passing, right?
Yeah, I've been wrestling with it as I get older.
Like, it makes you depressed to think that you will die one day.
No, I mean, we talked about this before. I look around and I see people aren't fascinated by their own death, and that fascinates me. And I just don't know how I feel about it. I'm not scared of dying.
Uh-huh.
I guess these days what I'm thinking about is why go through all the trouble of producing these beings who are sort of like one with the universe, or a microscopic reflection of the whole thing, and have this whole personality and life and dreams, and end that without, I guess we'll find out on the other side.
Like, the thing is that we don't really die. We're just putting on...
If you don't know that for sure.
I do. Like, in all the core of my personal belief, I know that there's another reality that's the true reality where I'm at.
I guess, yeah, my fascination, it's so...
All I got is belief.
My fascination with it is I want to know more about that. And I don't want to die to have to get to know it. You know?
Do you want to do ayahuasca? It seems
I've done loads of DMT, and I feel like it's like Burning Man or something. It's like, it's like I'm a psychedelic artist who's worked for myself for 20 years. I've been to 560 festivals. You know, I think I get some of it. I get the gist, and I don't particularly want to go to South or Central America and get chewed up by mosquitoes to do ayahuasca. You know, I know. Saying that to you is just I like a nice comfortable hotel room with like a sink and like a refrigerator nearby and like my comfy pajama pants and stuff. I don't necessarily want to go out into the jungle.
I'm not trying to sell it to you. Yeah. I'm just saying, like...
Well, that's what's kept me away from it all these times. And then the people who it's available with here, I've been offered a couple times. There was just something about the people putting those on that I didn't really vibe with. It's like it's a hard to say thing. Sometimes people just don't.
Your intuition told you no, and that's it.
Yeah, I was sort of like, this person's kind of, I don't know what it is, but I don't really like the way that they talk, and like I don't really want to come up to your house and sit around with people and thank you anyway, but you're just not my. But
the thing is, Randal, you can be in a beautiful hotel with golden sinks, or a crappy hut in middle of mud with mosquitoes. Hopefully, there's a net keeping the mosquitoes out, because I don't think anybody likes mosquitoes anywhere.
Yeah.
But where ayahuasca will take you will be extra uncomfortable, but perhaps with a purpose to like turn on something
like I said, it's really, to this day, I can go to the breakthrough DMT experiences I have and remember what that space felt like. And I was primarily shown what happens when you die. That was on my mind then, and it's here years later. It's as if I did it yesterday. I can see it. But for some reason, that doesn't comfort me all the way.
You don't buy it 100%. What you saw from those experiences. It
could just be pretty pictures in our head. Like when you look at the raw data, there is no evidence of anything. It could all. I don't really believe this, but it could all just be chemical chance, and we're all here by accident. It's so statistically unlikely that even the quantum physics lined up the way they did, like gravity works the way it did. If one little thing was off, like 0.004%, then none of this would work. Gravity wouldn't work. That I'm paraphrasing stuff that's out of my league and talked about by much smarter people. And I understand that the what do you call it? Projected reality thing is very statistically likely, that we're playing a video game of us playing a video game of us playing a video game, and that's what you are doing here. That all makes sense. Whatever happens, this very detailed, beautiful experience of being Randal seems to, I gotta get cool with it going away. And it just feels like a shame. Like in Jessica's case, it's a shame that I can't go have a coffee with her. Like,
but eventually she was gonna die either way. And if you think that dying is like a bad way to end the story of Randal or Jessica,
let me put it back on you. Why don't we just kill everyone now if we're all gonna die anyway? What is it that's happening? It's seriously this present moment of nature knowing itself, and the waterfall is the perfect analogy for it. Everything is like right here. And what life seems to be is that curve of everything coming down the river and then going into oblivion. And that's what the present is.
Well, maybe that's the top of the spiral, you know? Like we come out of quote unquote nothingness or eternity or oneness, live this life, and then it goes back into this bigger place. Seems like, oh, what a bad ending to us because we got such limited perspective, but it could be like so much more wonderful. And it's not like you ever stop loving the character of Randal or Chris or Jessica. Let's just enjoy it while like we're in the avatar, you know, and really make sure to always love ourselves the most we can while still embodied in the experience.
That's really tricky though, because every situation in this reality seems to be set up to pull you, little demons, you know, pulling on your shirt this way and that way.
That's the fun of the video game,
you
right?
know, it's so well, it's to the point where sometimes it reaches the edge of unbearable, you know, for people who have suicidal ideations, you know, like it's a legitimate response to all of this, especially when you throw in external problems like World War III about to happen and the deterioration of our bodies. When do you want to die? And how do you want to die? It's a terrible, beautiful question that's really hard to get an answer for. Maybe there is no answer. Do you want
I try to surrender to whatever is. I love living. I love being Chris. I love being here. I love doing the things that we do.
But if you love it too much, then you do, you know, you end up snorting drugs and like ruining your life.
We learn to not go out on a killing rampage and shooting your eye on the street, which is an option. I could go and buy a machine gun and shoot it, right? That is a physical option that could happen, and people have done that option, as crazy as it sounds to us. This is the world we're in it, that could happen. But we gotta, I think like the video game, it's like the journey of love, going to a world where it could be not love and do things like that. But awakening and be like, no, I want to be love, and the code is life, and I want to live, and I want to do things that grow and live.
When you make a smoothie for yourself and your partner, that's sort of touching on it. When I went through this sort of recent change of myself, my brilliant friend Simon, hey Cy, if you're watching this, he's an artist from England. A real gentle giant, beautiful, beautiful, brilliant bro.
Simon?
Yeah, Simon Buck. Simon Buck is...
I met him in Australia.
Did you? Yeah, he's all over the world, this guy. He's a magical, magical bro. So he called me and said, hey, man, I heard you're going through it. He's like, what I want you to do is say I love you to yourself in the mirror 10 times a day. And he said, you can say them all at once. You can space it out. I don't care. But you got to do 10 times a day. And I respect him and love him, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And the first time, anyways, what I'm saying is loving yourself in this way.
But what happened?
I didn't even know you're supposed to do this. I lived my whole life, and this question didn't really come up, this perspective, until he did this. And so I went to the mirror, and the first couple times, I'm like, I love you, fucking asshole. This is stupid, you know, and then 3 months or so went by where I started doing, I was also lifting weights and walking a lot. And
doing things that a person who loves himself should do.
Then it started kicking in, and I should do that again. Honestly, there was such a beautiful something in me broke open, but it was like a chick coming out of an egg, or I just broke into something that was a long time coming.
And then you embody this vibration of love for yourself that then expands onto others.
I didn't even know you're supposed to love yourself like this.
That's a whole video game. That's it's not even like the video games like how long can you live in the Matrix. It's like to love yourself and then die the next day, but dying loving yourself, you won the video game. Hi, we take this little pause from our conversations for me to let you know that I got a brand new art book. This is my second art book, Shamanic Journey, that just came out with Last Gasp Publications. It's a 256-page book, full color, shiny, beautiful pages with full of my art, writing, stories, basically everything I've done in the last 13 years. And I worked really hard on this book. It took me months to lay out by myself, and obviously the art has been a labor of love of many years, and I've condensed it all in this beautiful book that now is available on positcreations.net. You can get a signed version, you can get an unsigned version for a little bit cheaper. And yeah, this won't run out of electricity. On this digital world where we gotta charge everything, or a solar flare could knock out the electricity of the world and you'd be like, whoa, where did all my Chris Dyer go? No, this runs on energy forever. You never gotta charge it, you never gotta water it. It'll always be there to give you new inspiration and art. And I've done this with a lot of love, you know, and I hope that you will get a copy for your own personal library. And reflect yourself in it and make your own book and story of your life. But here's mine, and I hope you will enjoy it. positcreations.net. Thank you.
The problem is a lot of people, by the time they become my age, they develop this whole life of kind of not good habits. So you have to go through a process of retraining yourself, because you've trained yourself to road rage and hate your job and hate your neighbors, and so there's a lot of retraining, a lot of neural pathways that already exist and things that are very well worn in our lives, and that's hard to do, because your first chance you get, you're going to revert to this, old version of yourself. And it's a tall order to ask any person to love themselves and everyone around them. That's not. This happened on your post recently. Like, nature, for whatever reasons she has trained violence into the program.
Mm-hmm. It's an option.
Well, in the way I see it, it's like nature is like it rewards violence and it rewards cooperation.
It's certain key. Well, yeah, sure.
Like
it's both.
I think of the eagle, tearing apart the little baby bunny. That's the reward. Or the snake going and stealing the egg. That works in nature. That's rewarded. That for whatever reason, nature rewards that gloriously. It also rewards cooperation gloriously. The beehive, the people building the house, the monkeys all standing together in the tree and saying, there's fruit over here. This love and cooperation and sort of mammalian family aspect also is greatly rewarded. And then you have the violence and the horrible. So for me, that's the two, especially when it comes to nature, those are the 2 points that we're in. This is what we're talking about, kind of, right? Like, like, and so humans are right in the fucking middle. You can be rewarded for being a piece of shit as long as you really sit down and calculate it. You can.
But what's the reward? And can you live what you
I don't know. Those people fucking drive me crazy.
To be like a super millionaire, billionaire who like killed 1 million people in the process of getting there, like. The karma and the suffering that you're going to have to go. I believe in karma. And this is a belief, and I'm not saying it's a fact, but I think if you bring a lot of suffering to a lot of people, you're going to have to go through it, now in the future, or maybe you already went through it in the past, and this is your balance out for that situation.
Man, I hope so, but I hope karma isn't something invented just to make people feel better. I I grew up in a
I just see it in
area.
life. It plays out.
I I used to hang out, work with this guy, a really cool friend of mine, who was friends with this drug dealer guy who apparently killed somebody. And we talked about him. I didn't know this dude, but we talked about him killing somebody, and he said, he was like, it doesn't really bother him. Because I was like, what's that like? Like, one of your friends killed somebody? Like, doesn't he, how does he sleep at night? And he's like, not really. Like, he's fine.
Different consciousness.
And kind of me hearing that was like, oh God, like,
Yeah.
no, you know, like they just get away with it. And like that, sometimes when you look, especially at these horrible, especially military industrial, you know, people who are like in the business of war or preventing medical help for people so that they get stuck sick and they have to pay, like. Yeah, the Monsanto, Big Pharma, Lockheed Martin people. What are they doing? I just can't.
Seems unreasonably bad. Like, what are you even getting out of it? Other than like winning at this video game of money and power, which after a certain level, we got everything we need. You don't need that much.
Well, you know, the billionaires kind of poke fun at each other too. So even if you have 3 billion, the 30 billions are like, ha, sucker, and like then they feel bad and they feel broke. They feel they have.
But that's lack of love. Those are people who are not working at loving themselves and be like, you know what? I'm happy with my 3 billion.
Some people, yeah, I like those people.
Or then like let's give it away to for other people to stop suffering. And lots of millionaires are going that route.
I've met 2 billionaires. One of them, you know him too. He's a great guy, and he seems pretty happy. So, you know, I'm lucky to.
I've had a few come to me and be like, "Oh, Chris, I see that you're working for the good side. I want to empower you." And you know, because they've woken up in the video game and be like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be loved. I'm supposed to love myself. I'm supposed to," and I made all this money playing the thing. Okay, now let's use the money as energy to then bring more love and life into
more
the world.
of them. Go, guys, go.
Yeah,
do it.
The awakening is happening. I think it's inevitable, and we'll see more and more what this video game's about.
It really does look like, though, there's something in nature, you know, like in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, there's some fundamental thing for whatever reason in this video game of our life where the stakes are super high and real and shitty, and like it wouldn't be, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. This place just wouldn't be as fun if there wasn't a, you know, pirate in the alleyway who could really stab you in the stomach with his knife. Oh, and the knife would like go in, and that would be horrible. And like without that possibility, for whatever reason, making love and eating ice cream and stuff just wouldn't be.
That's the physical reality that God has placed itself in, you know, as just stupid human beings like that we are, to experience all the experiences. And
it's just, you know, I had to unfollow Nature is Metal, which I loved for years, you know, I think it's awesome. But really just having that kind of darkness in my feed every day was starting to mess with me. Nature is Metal. It's a really popular.
Nature is Metal. Yeah,
it's a lot of eagles tearing apart baby bunnies, you know?
Okay, no, that's terrible. And, like, for sure, we understand that there's really terrible things happening, but when we're focusing our energy, we're expanding that in our lives, and we don't want it.
But it's happening terribly on a level that. Did you know that we kill 3 billion animals every day to eat? And if you include fish in that number, it's uncountable. I'll say that again. 3 billion pigs, chickens, and cows, and geese, and ducks, and lambs die every day. I just don't think that we really have a handle on the sheer horror that is actually you can't think about it.
But why? Not that I'm saying that you should, like, you know, put your head in the sand and ignore the suffering of the world. But why do you want to look at it and be like, suffering? Like, what are you gaining from it? Unless you want to burn your fingers so you learn to use that hand to give instead?
I don't know. I feel like
it has to have
that's a really good question. Do you sacrifice your, you know, like how, in order to be happy, you really do have to cut things down. But then you were kind of being this kind of privileged, you know, little window thing where.
No, but we're not designed to see it all the time.
Yeah.
This is
yeah,
just
our brains and our eyes like cut out what 90% of the information that we see
we're
because
not
you wouldn't be able to
decipher.
walk across the room.
No.
This is what psychedelics do
We're
for you.
going,
They
we're going against our
momentarily
nature
broke
by
it.
looking at these phones, seeing too much horror.
Yeah.
If anything, we're seeing too much.
Yeah.
And you're telling me like we should see it more. It's like,
No, I'm not an advocate for seeing it more.
Okay.
I just don't know what to do with it. You know, I don't know what it's
surrender.
too much.
At the end of the day, all I can do is surrender. I'm in a game that, of course, I would like everything to just be life and love and cooperation, the honeybees and the ants. But there's also the snake and the eagle,
Yeah.
and I respect them in their expression of the oneness in the physical plane, and I don't judge it. I just surrender it that this is what's happening. Let it be. Get away from it because that's not what I want in my life, and go and become the honeybee or the ant that gives.
Well, after thinking about it a lot and really trying to improve myself, I have come down to feeling my emotions, get my butt in this chair, and I figured out how to simplify. Simplify, man. For me, that's seeing a little less of the horror. But then, here's the one thing: whatever it is out there, it feels the need to keep reaching into my reality and give me a strong poke, like burning my motherfucking house down and killing my friend. Like I don't understand why. Is it just dice rolling? Why do some people have such, and I don't even have it that bad. That's not, like,
let's not compare ourselves once
I just
again.
don't understand why
the
reality,
of others
they have to come right into your real life and they gotta break your car down and break your heart in various ways. And it's almost like, all right, it's enough is enough. I get it. I'm in the prostrating position. I'm praying. I'm sorry. I love myself. And then you get kicked again. It's really difficult. I think everyone. One of the things I touched on a little while ago was like when I was having this like transcendental experience of like the worst week of my life, tears of joy and sorrow, and then those tears kind of showed me the ocean of tears, and of all the humans and all the, when I got access to that, and then it was like in my body, oh my God, and I realized like everybody has the worst week of their life, and it's up here for some people, here for some people, but my heart broke and I had compassion, like real fucking compassion.
So it seems like you're answering the question, like why you come and getting poked once again at this fire.
Well, how many fucking times you gotta, Like, I get it.
I'm not the orchestrator of reality, so I can't tell you why
you?
these things happen.
Well, that's a great thing, is to look at everybody like God and drag as.
Well, we are, but I'm not the absolute God at the top of the controllers. I'm not, I'm just
well,
the
some
fart,
people you kind of look at them and you're like, all right, God, Jesus, man, get away from that,
Yeah, but there's lessons in everything, and it seems like you accessed your ocean of sadness because it's just like you just let go.
Well,
I can't hold the dam anymore. Let just sadness pour and let it flow till it's a little bit less full,
And that was a dope thing to go through. I'm grateful for it, and I'm different because of it. But I had to go, okay, that's enough. I mean, there was a period where I wept every morning, like right after my coffee. I sat and wrote my journal, and I just and after like 6 months, seriously, of doing that every day, I was like, all right, like, what's going on here? Because
is this going to be my life for the rest?
Well, compassion, if you really let yourself feel it as much as you possibly can, for Christ's sakes, you'd be weeping all day long. So you have to turn it off at some point and go like, well, for my body and my circumstances and who I was, I've got enough to go on. Let me get back to doing what I got to do,
Right.
But I found myself sort of, needing to numb that a little bit and I let it inhabit my body, like every day. It was just too heartbreaking. And then the fire was like, it just sort of, it was like, oh, you know, like it's just so much to let it be in your body.
Well, they say that
You
what
know,
doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I feel like you're getting stronger through these trials by fire, no pun intended,
yeah,
you know? Like it's really, it's almost like you lived a movie.
yeah,
And from that beautiful movie that is your life with the, you know, dark night of the soul and, you know, the hero shall rise in its journey to
yeah. The
going
hero's
back
journey,
home.
man. That's what it's all about. But the thing is, that story is cyclical, you know, and you're always like in some version of
Yeah, when is the
the
hammer
hero's
going to
journey.
fall again?
Yeah,
You know, I've decided I don't need to suffer anymore. I feel like pain is a good teacher and there's a lot to learn from it.
yeah,
But at one point, it's like, cool, I'm good on that lesson. I've suffered as much as I feel this vessel can handle it in my levels of sensitivity. Thank you so much, God, for it. I feel better and stronger. And now, you know, I choose to learn from a more cooperative, lifeful, loving path, even with the struggles of life. No life has no struggles, but we flow it with a positive mindset. It's like, oh, this terrible thing that's happening is actually a good thing too. But I just can't see it because I'm just a stupid human here, you know, doing a couple paintings on
yeah.
the
And
side of
you
a.
have every day you have an opportunity to exercise that compassion that you earned too,
Mhm.
whether it's just in line at the store or whatever. And if we can, yeah, use it and be kind of, I like that. And I do take this as, you know, a message from the universe. I always do with you. I'll take that and think about it. It, um, I'm a little more compassionate than I was 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and that's that's great.
Yeah, I'm
You
stoked.
know?
I think you're a lot more positive. Like for sure, you got your depressions and stuff, which I think is part of kind of like the chemical
Yeah, I feel like there's a
situation.
spectrum
Yeah.
of people who feel emotion. Like I think for whatever reason, just whatever the little glands in me that are squirting juice and whatever, I fall way on this side. If not even pushing, you know, I'm not diagnosed, but I'm something. You know, I just have it a little. Some people are tall, some people are short. You know, I have a lot of emotion, and it's a lot to handle it. You know, and like many times in my life, I've you know, dropped the ball on handling it. I didn't even know though until, you know, much too late in life, that it was even my responsibility. What do they say in mental health? It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. I got that message really late,
Mm.
you know, and I took it seriously. But I'm a lot, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes even I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
this is a lot taking care of Randall, you know.
Well, I love
Um,
you for who you are,
Thank
and I
you. I
like
love you too,
visiting
man.
you,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to see where you're at. Do you like now that you know, life keeps on moving forward? What are you looking forward to? And you know, like for sure we focus on the now, but what's something that
Mhm.
you're opening up in your scope of dreams and goals in your?
Like I said, yeah, man. Events. I want to do more events. I always go to festivals and stuff. I'm really excited about potentially participating in the MAPS conference that's happening here in Denver again. Secret Dreams Festival, Elements, like all of our people, you know. Papadosio's doing their final tour. I really want to go catch one of their things. Tipper, Spangle, you know, it's popping this year for events. So if I can get in on any of those, but then I've got my own ideas for art workshops, 1 day, 3 day ones, like all over. And I'm planning those now. Really excited about that. We should do one together, you know, like
I'd
let's do
love
it.
to teach with you.
Yeah. So I want to do sort of stuff like that, just whatever I can sort of bring and package the Denver art scene. I'm going to bring it and then use we know and what we do here and sort of get that, you know, just like seeds going out.
Hmm.
But I really want to do workshops, events, and you can sign up for my newsletter at allthisisforyou.com/newsletter and stay in the loop for all the stuff I'm doing. And I only send a couple of those out a month. I try to make them really as valuable as I can. You know, they all contain some cool piece of information, and at the bottom is like what I'm doing. So sign up for a newsletter.
What about your dream of your 50-cent coffee shop?
Oh yeah, $2 coffee. Yeah.
$2?
Oh, that's okay. I'm glad you asked. I'm really excited about this. I need help, but it's a really good idea. It's a art work environment that sort of hires out little workstations like this. Let's say a giant warehouse, and you've got 10 stations set up just like this. And whether you're a working artist or you're someone coming in off the street, and I've always wanted to paint, you have a couple artists who are living and working there or whatever. They're there to help you, and you can either pay $40 and you get a free canvas and you get to sit there for 4 hours, or you can be an artist who comes in and rents a space, whatever. It's just a huge space of workstations, and then art all over the walls of me and my friends and every cool thing you can think of. Think, you know, Meow Wolf, just floor to ceiling, cool things, a real inspiring area. And then in the back, you've got coffee, because all artists need fuel and coffee.
Coffee!
And I really think this is a viable idea because of my taglines that have, so there's a sandwich board out in front of this place, and on one side of the sandwich board it says, there is more to life than art, there is also coffee, right? What that's thinking. There's more to life than art, there's also coffee. And on the other side it says, coffee, $2, or you can just have one, in parentheses. So the coffee, it won't be like a barista and the fancy soy milk and all this stuff. It's just a fucking like gas station thing in the back. You can go make your coffee. But I think coffee and art are, it's a working formula, and I'm just excited about being semi-public with my art and my friends' art, and just having a place that's like, yeah, this energy is like alive, and I know it's alive enough to make, if we made it a real place, at least temporarily, you know, some kind of 6-month pop-up or something like that, it would really work.
Mm-hmm.
I have all kinds of ideas along these lines. Have you ever been to the Henry Miller Library on Route 1 outside of San Francisco?
No. Well, I haven't been to it.
I love the Henry Miller Library. It's
Okay.
it's a small place. It's a cafe, bookstore on the beautiful Route 1. I mean, there's fucking waterfalls going into the ocean there. You know, it's right on the edge of the Pacific. There's a redwood trees ringed little stage, and there's 3 to 5 people live as artists in residence, and they work in the cafe and the bookstore,
Mm-hmm.
and then they sleep out back in the cabin. And bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers or whatever will do synonym gigs there, right? So you go, oh shit, like, you know, and then you can go see these concerts on this beautiful little redwood stage with like 60 people around, and it's like, you know, these famous musicians doing these one-off little tour enders, you know? And then the bookstore is beautiful. Anyway, Henry Miller Library is a special little place. You got to know about it. It's really awesome. And I think for my legacy, that's what I'm going to work toward for the next 50 years, is creating this little special side of the road place that isn't a really big deal, but for a beautiful, creative, seeking road tripper, they hear about it, go there, and they go, and have it be like a pit stop for the soul. Yeah. And I think I can accomplish a small one, you know? Mm-hmm. And so this, you know, I call it Paladin. The warrior of the light is a paladin. I have
will that happen in like Denver area, or
I don't know. If you have a place or you have money out there, podcast world, I recognize it as a seed of an idea, an acorn, if you will, you know, and that's where it's at right now, and that's okay. But it is starting to form, and I
hope you end up in St. Pete one day.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you know, I'm an old man, so Florida's starting to look attractive. But
why not retire early? Eh?
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a really cool art scene in St. Pete, and you're there, and I have other friends there. It's not off the list for me at all. But I feel like, again, like, I sort of have tied one shoe, and I'm in the middle of tying the other shoe of my Denver life. Uh-huh. And then once my shoes are tied, we're gonna do something. But I don't know how long this process is, and like, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm
no
cool
point in
with
rushing it.
Yeah. And yeah, art and coffee, some kind of warrior of the light art and coffee place. It's in the future. I think the Randall's Great Big Live Paint Jam tour will help figure out what that's going to be and what that will look like. Uh-huh. And yeah, I'm set for the next 50 years.
Nice, man. Well, I love your dreams, and I know our dreams will crisscross and Venn diagram at different points.
Always.
Thanks for this conversation we're sharing together. Like, is there like some final words that you'd like to share with a young artist that might look into?
I think it's nothing that I can say nothing as eloquently and powerfully as Elizabeth Gilbert said in the book Big Magic. Go get the book Big Magic. I'm not sponsored by her or anything. I just really think if you're serious about making art your whole life, you a lot of what you need to know is in that book. It boils down to do 20 minutes a day, and that's the boiled down essence of it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, if you're not doing 20 minutes a day of your art, start there. Uh-huh. And it can be, sometimes you're drawing in the maple syrup and you're like, all right, I did my art. But sometimes you can't, there's nowhere else to start other than making it your practice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Randal.
Thanks,
I love
Ben.
you, man.
I love you, man.
Woo! Yeah. You're the best. And you guys are the best too. Thanks for watching our episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Also, a big thanks to YAK Snacks. I'm feeling really good right now. I got this really big smile on my face, so that can't be a bad thing. And thank you so much for them. And I'll see you next time. Blessings. Woo!
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Thank you.
Next episode, my street artist friend, clonism.
You know what's funny? Like, I've been drawing on my iPad for so long now, and the other day I was like, I'm gonna do a little sketch on paper, and I started drawing the sketch. And then I'm double tapping the paper to undo the dry line.
Or do you ever like pinch it and trying to expand
that too.
it?
I'm like, what am I doing?
Do you think the iPad is making us get worse as artists? Or
I do think so, yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, not worse, but...
there's this urgency to be precise.
It's just more convenience, and it's losing the analog part of being an artist, like the true roots of it, pen to paper, the raw aspect of it, it's getting lost for sure. So now I realize that, like, damn, I'm gonna now focus on drawing more on paper for that reason, because I don't want to lose that,
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.